Hello and welcome to Newsclick. We are going to discuss Syriza's victory in Greece, which has put European Union and its politics in some kind of a crisis. To discuss, we have with us Professor Aijaz Ahmad, political commentator. Aijaz, Syriza's victory means difference for European politics, particularly EU politics?
Well, it's a very, very important and decisive moment in European politics. It is for the first time that a party of the radical left, which clearly has broken with social democracy, has come to power in any country, has formed government in any European country since the last thing was really the Portuguese Revolution. So in about 35 years, this is the first time that a party of the radical left came so close to getting a majority, fell short by only 2 seats. This will certainly, I think, energize people in Spain and Ireland in particular, but across Europe. But it's also a moment of danger because all the problems will now emerge. And problems are of many kinds. One is the extreme composite character of Syriza itself. There are all kinds of tendencies in it. And I think one of the objectives of the EU high brass would be to do a sort of a combination of concessions and threats that would create those stresses inside Syriza, and they will hope to break it up. The other thing inside Greece that is very alarming is the extreme belligerent position that the Communist Party of Greece has taken, KKE. They're threatening demonstrations and etc., disruptions of various sorts as soon as Syriza actually comes into action.
You know, interesting point that you raised regarding the character of Syriza. Syriza is a party of virtually 8-9 years and takes birth, in fact, from the European Social Forum, which took place in Athens, I think, around 2003-2004. But over the last few years, it seems to have got a fairly stable political position. And do you think that the different tendencies within at this moment differ significantly amongst themselves?
Yes. Syriza, as such, was formed in 2004. You're quite right. Soon after the Athens European Forum. By and large, Syriza, as I see it, is a sort of a cross or an amalgam or a united front or whatever you want to call it. But now with a very dense experience of this coalition between the communists of various stripes, other left groupings like Maoists and Trotskyists and so on, and a whole new generation of social movements of various kinds. So this is a very broad coalition of that kind internally. These people, but all of it, there is a unity on a radical left platform. And Tsipras's own party is so much larger and has become so much larger since 2011. Until then, it was rather a small formation and so on, but now it overwhelms the whole coalition. But there are those tendencies within Syriza which is willing to do more compromises. There will be a question as to when to, in fact, confront the EU. Do you first implement the domestic programs, which can be done fairly painlessly without confronting the EU and the Troika, as it is called, the great financial conglomerate that runs Europe. At what time do you do it? My own view is that it would be a matter of decisive importance that they confront the EU within the first 3 months.
It's also interesting that the Troika, or their spokespersons of various ilk, had actually come out in public saying how Syriza was a great danger to Greece, great danger to Europe, great danger to Euro, and so on. Seems to have backfired because I think the Greeks actually voted more for Syriza faced with these threats and the austerity measures which have left them in deep trouble. So that seems to have dawned now on the Troika, because after Syriza's victory, they have been rather quiet. They have not made those kind of statements, and they have not been that confrontational as yet. Greece is a small country, small economy. So actually, if they want, they can compromise. But do you think they are going to compromise with Syriza, or do this kind of tightrope walking, hoping that Syriza will break up?
If Syriza can stare them down, but I mean, if they do real concessions to Syriza, it will be registered in Europe as Syriza having stared them down. Then Spain goes. Ireland, Latvia is coming up for elections. There will be elections over the next 2 years in about half a dozen countries. There is a question of what, right now there is an explosive sort of confrontation developing between the far right in Germany and a coalition of forces. It's perfectly possible that out of this internal dynamic plus Syriza's strength, parties like Die Linke and so on can actually emerge as major voices in Germany, etc. So they cannot take that risk. On the other hand, unless they offer real concessions, they cannot break the unity within Syriza. They have to initiate a discussion inside Syriza that, look, EU is giving you that much, let us, etc. So they're caught.
It's an interesting position, because Syriza also has this problem that the Greek people do not want to leave the Eurozone. That's clear.
Absolutely.
So unless they have a position by which they can make it impossible for the desire of the Greek people for removing austerity and being under the Euro, it's not possible.
They have to give terms of negotiations to the Troika, presented to them hard, but terms that the Greek people think are necessary and which are seen approvingly across Europe, particularly in Germany, where there's a big, they have to create within Germany an idea that what Syriza is asking is really important.
The whole question about Germany that you're raising is German population, by and large, seem to believe that the Greek are the grasshoppers and they are the ants. They do not see it as an issue between the European people and the German banks, which is what the austerity program is just about. Do you think Syriza can play it in a way, with the help of other forces, that actually the austerity debate comes up and banks versus people comes up, rather than the Greek versus German debate, which is what's happening in Germany?
But that's why I said that they have to present that to them. And secondly, alongside that, they have to go very fast on implementing the domestic program, because populations are suffering all across Europe. If they can see a radical left party doing what social democracy historically used to do 50, 70 years ago, the poor, the working class, the people who have been taking the brunt of this German progress inside German population may shift their view of Syriza and stop being German patriots against Greek,
freeloaders.
The freeloaders and so on. It's possible. It's possible.
Interestingly enough, Podemos has gained 20%, almost becoming one of the striking forces inside Spain capable of taking power. Right. So that's a position in a very important position. Absolutely. It's also one of the fastest rises of any party we have seen in Europe over the last 30, 40 years. And Pablo Iglesias came to Tsipras' last rally, publicly seen with him. And if what you are saying, if Syriza is able to succeed in getting its message across, that we help a certain section of the people, do you think Spain is the next to go?
Yes. Spain is the country, and it's a much larger economy. It's a much more important European country. These were the two countries where there has been, since 2007, 2008, constant radical left mobilizations. And the fact that Spain has made so quick a transition, and so positive a transition, so large a transition, from the indignados up to the formation of a political party that is gaining from all those things. This, I think, is the important fact. The third country in which there were, in fact, at various points, very serious and big demonstrations was France. But France is now being swept by the right wing, and Mr. Hollande is creating a situation in which Le Pen is likely to become the next president.
It's interesting because instead of the left having taken the salience against austerity and against the EU policies, which is really the German bank policies, if you will, the fact is that the Le Pen has taken that place, and the gauche, the party of the left, have really failed to take that space.
But there is a right wing in all the countries of that kind. What has happened in these countries is that the left outstripped the far right, partly for historical reasons, that communist movements here and the classical anarchist movement in Spain were very, very strong. And not only that, I mean, the anti-fascist movement, which was very powerful, socialists, communists, and so on. So part of it is historically that kind of legacy. These were the countries that, these are movements that came, that have their historic roots in the anti-fascist movement in Spain and the anti-dictatorship movement against the generals and that junta there. And you see, so the social profile is also very interesting of the voting population. They have 3 MPs who are Muslim Turks. Syriza.
That's interesting.
Okay.
That's interesting.
They have a very diverse social base. Although there seems to have been some decline in their vote share in the great cities, Athens and so on, as compared to the 2012, but overwhelming vote now has come where they failed to get in 2012, which is among the peasantry, among the unemployed, among women, and down into the countryside.
So, moment of great interest. His choice of the finance minister is also very interesting. Yanis Varoufakis is clearly a confrontational person, willing to buck the trend very clearly. And all this would tend to show that the Syriza does understand that without the confrontation with EU Troika, the financial institutions, they are not going to be able to survive on the promises they have made.
But what that also shows is that the balance of power inside Syriza has shifted decisively towards the left.
So, very, very interesting moment in history for Greece.
Renationalization of virtually everything.
So, very interesting moment in history for Greece and for Europe.
Yeah. And, you know, worldwide, the idea that you have to renationalize all these things that have been sold to finance capital of various sorts, that you really have to renationalize, repossess your country.
Interesting. Thanks, Aijaz, and we will continue to watch the developments in Greece as well as rest of Europe. Thank you very much for coming to Newsclick.
Thank you.
Keep watching Newsclick. We'll continue to cover Europe, Greece, and other such hotspots. Nobody thought Greece would be a hotspot, but it is today.